Dan Rayland, who was my right-hand man for many years, is an excellent leader. Values people highly. But when he first came to work for me, he didn't show it. One day when he was on the job, I was chatting with some people in the lobby, and Dan came in. Briefcase in hand, Dan walked right past all of us without saying a word and went straight down the hall toward his office. I was astounded. How could a leader walk right by a group of people he worked with and not even say hello to them? I quickly excused myself from the conversation I was having and followed Dan to his office. Dan, I asked after greeting him, how could you walk right past everybody like that? I've got a lot of work to do today, Dan answered, and really want to get started. Dan, I said, you just walked past your work. Never forget that leadership is about people. Dan cared about people and wanted to serve them as a leader. He just didn't show it. I'm told that in American Sign Language, the sign for serving is to hold the hands out in front with the palms up and to move them back and forth between the signer and the signee. And really, that is a good metaphor for the attitude that servant leaders should possess. They should be open, trusting, caring, offering their help, and willing to be vulnerable. Leaders who add value by serving believe in their people before their people believe in them, and serve others before they are served. We add value to others when we make ourselves more valuable to others. The whole idea of adding value to other people depends on the idea that you have something of value to add. You can't give what you do not possess. What do you have to give others? Can you teach skills? Can you give opportunities? Can you give insight and perspective gained through experience? None of these things comes without a price. If you have skills, you gain them through study and practice. If you have opportunities to give, you acquired them through hard work. If you possess wisdom, you gained it by intentionally evaluating the experiences you've had. The more intentional you have been in growing personally, the more you have to offer. The more you continue to pursue personal growth, the more you will continue to have to offer. 3. We add value to others when we know and relate to what others value. Management consultant Nancy K. Austin says that once when she looked under the bed in her room at one of her favorite hotels, she was surprised to find a card. It said, "Yes, we clean under here too." Austin said, "I don't remember the lobby, or the number of the chandeliers, or how many square feet of marble they cobbled together to make our underfoot experience pleasant." What she remembered was the card. The housekeeping staff had anticipated what was important to her and had served her well. We think of that as good customer service. And when we are clients or guests, we expect to receive it. But as leaders, we don't automatically expect to give it. But it is a key to effective leadership as leaders. How do we know and relate to what our people value? We listen. Inexperienced leaders are quick to lead before knowing anything about the people they intend to lead. But mature leaders listen, learn, and then lead. They listen to their people's stories. They find out about their hopes and dreams. They become acquainted with their aspirations, and they pay attention to their emotions. From those things, they learn about their people. They discover what is valuable to them, and then they lead based upon what they've learned. When they do that, everybody wins. The organization, the leader, and the followers. Little box. Inexperienced leaders are quick to lead before knowing anything about the people they intend to lead. But mature leaders listen, learn, and then lead. 4. We add value to others when we do things that God values. I already mentioned that you may want to skip this final point, but for me, it's a non-negotiable. I believe that God desires us not only to treat people with respect, but also to actively reach out to them and serve them. Scripture provides many examples and descriptions of how we should conduct ourselves. But here's my favorite, captured by Eugene Peterson. Peterson's The Message. When he finally arrives blazing in beauty and all his angels with him, the Son of Man will take his place on his glorious throne. Then all the nations will be arranged before him. He will sort the people out, much as a shepherd sorts out sheep and goats, putting sheep to his right and goats to his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Enter, you who are blessed by my Father. Take what's coming to you in this kingdom. It's been ready for you since the world's foundation, and here's why. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me." Then those sheep are going to say, "Master, what are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we ever see you sick or in prison and come to you?" Then the king will say, "I'm telling you the solemn truth. Whenever you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. You did it to me." That standard for my conduct influences everything I do, not just including my leadership, but especially my leadership. Because the more power I have, the greater my impact on others, for better or worse. And I always want to be someone who adds value to others, not take it away. It's not just about the chicken. When I moved my companies and my family to Atlanta in 1997, it wasn't long before I received a call from Dan Cathy, the president of Chick-fil-A, the privately held national restaurant chain. He had a question for me. "John, how can we help you and your organization?" I was surprised. How often does a company that's bigger and stronger than you come seemingly out of the blue and offer a hand to help? But that's what Dan did. He brought together 200 top business people from the Atlanta area, and hosted a lunch where he introduced me and offered me a chance to speak to them for 40 minutes. It gave me instant credibility that it would have taken me years to earn, if indeed I could have earned it at all without his help. He added tremendous value to me and my organization. What I discovered as I got to know Dan Truett Cathy, his father and founder of Chick-fil-A, and their entire organization, is that an attitude of service pervades everything they do. And for that reason, along with the dedication to excellence, I have to say that Chick-fil-A is one of the companies that I most greatly admire and respect. In 2005, when I hosted Exchange, a weekend leadership growth experience for executives, I took the participants to a Chick-fil-A headquarters south of Atlanta. Everyone got to see the company's operations, meet Truett Cathy, and hear Dan Cathy speak about the organization. He shared many eye-opening comments that revealed their dedication to service and adding value to their employees and customers. For example, Dan was preparing that day to camp out with customers for the 19th time on the eve of a new restaurant opening. He said that he's gotten to know customers and their desires in a way he never could have before he started their practice. Dan also talked about the company's desire to give second-mile service, because Chick-fil-A is a privately held company and is much smaller than McDonald's and KFC, and many of its other competitors. He believes the company will compete and win, not through strength, but through service. For that reason, the company is teaching etiquette to its employees, many of whom are teenagers, Dan joked. There's evidence that the words etiquette and fast food have never been mentioned in the same sentence before. But Dan's approach to leadership became clear when he prepared to give every person at Exchange what he called the Leadership Relationship Development Tool. Dan said, "Now, this is a 9-inch, 100% horsehair shoe brush. This is an industrial strength shoe brush. It's the best you can get from the Johnston and Murphy Shoe Company. I'm going to present all of these, one to each of you here. And John, why don't you come over here and just for a moment, John, why don't you come over here just for a moment? I made a commitment I'd never give one of these leadership relationship development tools to anybody without first showing you how to use it. So John, step up here so they can see you here. And I'm going to challenge you to watch closely. This really has substance and real meaning when it's practiced with people that you really know, that you really work with a lot. So if you let me show you how this happens, I'll tell you how it works. Dan sat me down, kneeled at my feet, and began cleaning my shoes with the brush. Now, this works whether the person's got tennis shoes, Nikes, Reeboks. It will work on any type of shoe. So don't worry about what kind of shoe the person has on. You don't say anything. That's one of the real keys here. And you're in no big hurry as you do this. Then, when you're done, you give them a big hug. At this point, Dan stood up, gave me a big hug, and then he turned to address the crowd once again. I find that in the right setting, when you have enough time to do this and to really talk about this, this can have a powerful impact on people's lives. I believe what this does is it cleans out the closet in our relationship with other people. Such a big part of good leadership is having no unresolved relational conflict with other people. Serving others who follow you really purifies your motives and helps you gain perspective. And it also brings to the surface any impure motives of followers. Anytime you can remove wrong agendas from a leadership relationship, you clear the way for fantastic achievement. When Truett Cathy answered some questions at the end of our time with them, he quoted Ben Franklin as saying, "The handshake of the host affects the taste of the roast." Another way to say it would be that the attitude of the leader affects the atmosphere of the office. If you desire to add value by serving others, you will become a better leader, and your people will achieve more, develop more loyalty, and have a better time getting things done than you ever thought possible. That is the power of the law of addition. Applying the law of addition to your life. Number 1, do you have a servant's attitude when it comes to leadership? Don't be too quick to say yes. Here's how you can tell. In situations where you're required to serve others' needs, how do you respond? Do you become impatient? Do you feel resentful? Do you believe that certain tasks are beneath your dignity or position? If you answer yes to any of those questions, then your attitude is not as good as it could be. Make it a practice to perform small acts of service for others without seeking credit or recognition for them. Continue until you no longer resent doing them. Number 2, what do people closest to you value? Make a list of the most important people in your life, from home, work, church, hobbies, and so on. After making the list, write what each person values most. Then rate yourself on a scale of 1, poorly, to 10, excellently, on how well you relate to that person's value. If you can't articulate what someone values or you score lower than an 8 in relating to that person, spend more time with him or her to improve. Number 3, make adding value part of your lifestyle. Begin with those closest to you. How could you add value to the people on your list related to what they value? Start doing it. Then do the same with all the people you lead. If there are only a few, add value individually. If you lead large numbers of people, you may have to think of ways to serve groups as well as individuals.